Most people experience government action by arguing about whether it is fair, necessary, or right. But fairness and necessity are matters of opinion. To know if an act is actually lawful, we have to look past the political noise and test the underlying structural authority. That is the purpose of the firewall test. It is a strict, mechanical process. It doesn't weigh outcomes or balance competing interests. It evaluates a single binary condition, producing definitive proof of whether lawful authority exists or whether it does not. To run this test, you need three things. First, your firewall action guide. Second, a blank firewall card template. And finally, one specific, real-world government order or policy that you want to evaluate. Shifting your approach from interpreting a rule to mechanically testing it allows you to determine if the government holds actual authority or if it is simply asserting power without a lawful foundation. Step 1. Isolate the action. Look at your real-world example. Identify the exact action the government is attempting to execute and write it down. Do not include the government's stated justifications. Strip away the media headlines, the political framing, and your personal opinions about the policy. For instance, a 20-page policy detailing public safety initiatives and economic recovery plans reduces to one factual sentence: the city mandates business closures under threat of a fine. Testing this pure mechanical action, completely separated from its political narrative, exposes whether the underlying legal foundation actually exists. Look at this chain of custody diagram. Starting at the top, ask, does the action recognize that law exists prior to government? Next, evaluate if it protects pre-political rights. If it attempts to condition those rights as privileges, it fails. If the action successfully recognizes pre-existing law and protects inherent rights, check the corresponding box on your firewall card and proceed to the next step. If an act fails to recognize higher law or attempts to redefine rights, the chain is broken before it begins. No amount of procedural compliance can fix a failure in the source of authority. Moving to the 12 principles of lawful authority, focus on Principle 4. Search the Constitution for an explicit grant delegating this exact power. Now look at Principle 5. Ask if the execution of this power stays strictly within the boundaries of that specific grant. Never accept implied power or necessity as a valid justification. In a principal-agent relationship, authority is never presumed. It must always be proven. Mark the delegation section as satisfied on your firewall card only if you find that explicit documented proof. Assumed power is usurpation. This brings us to the unexplicit, documented delegation from the people. The entire structure of lawful authority immediately collapses. Returning to the chain of custody diagram, focus on the lower half. Verify that complete due process was honored before any force was utilized. Then, examine the accountability link. Confirm the government actor remains legally liable. If they claim immunity, this condition fails. If all required processes are strictly followed and total accountability is present, the chain of authority holds intact. The act is lawful. Process and accountability serve as the structural firewalls. They ensure that legitimate law does not degrade into arbitrary, consequence-free force. This brings us to the unbreakable rule of the firewall. If any single condition in the previous steps is not met, the evaluation must stop immediately. You will be tempted to keep reading the document, to attempt to justify the law, or to search for alternative interpretations. Do not proceed past a broken link. Instead, document the exact point of structural failure directly on your firewall card. When a link breaks, the act is completely void from its inception. It carries absolutely no force in law. Ending the inquiry at the very first point of failure strips away the ambiguity. It eliminates the endless debate that government relies upon to execute unscrutinized power. A completed firewall card serves as a technical record of a government's structural failure. The firewall enforces a binary reality. There is no such thing as partial authority. It either exists entirely or it is a legal nullity. Having seen this structure, your perspective changes permanently. You are no longer dependent on institutions or politicians to declare what is lawful. Your next task is to take this method into the real world. Run the firewall test on current events, identify the breaks in the chain, and prepare your documented failures for the next phase of the program, legal exposure. Applying this mechanical test allows you to identify the specific moment power exceeds its grant. You now have the means to judge whether the system is operating according to its own rules.